We did a study within Aegis and also within another project which we combined. We surveyed around 650 people, end users. Around 50% of them were not aware of certain assistive technologies related to their disability. And less than 50 of those that had assistive technology knew how to use it. I mean, you have to imagine, I will give you an example. I went to a person who was quadriplegic after a severe accident. She was sold by an assistive technology provider in a certain country a laptop of 3,000 euros and got a training of 5 minutes. And the most important was, he did not even show how to put on the laptop. These are things that we recognize in many, many European countries. Last week I was in England to visit a number of initiatives, and the same problem came up there as well. Difficult access. So in some countries, people do not know what exists, and this is problematic. High purchasing costs, and this is very simple. Suppose that I'm a wheelchair provider, and I make my wheelchairs, and I happen to know the prices. I make them for 500 euros. Gosh, they're willing to pay the government in Belgium 6,000 euros. I'm going to sell my wheelchair at a profit of how much? From 500 euros to 5,000 euros. And I happen to know the company where they produce them. So the high purchasing costs, again, quite different in Europe, but most of the time they're highly inflated because companies know they can sell a lot because it's reimbursed by the state. Problem. I live in Bulgaria and there is no such budget available. But my wheelchairs are not going to cost 500 euros in Bulgaria. They're going to cost 5,000. Otherwise, I destroy my own market. So, you see again, the purchasing costs create, on the one hand, there's no problem for those that get the budget from the state. For those that do not get the budget from the state, it's a huge problem. And just to give you an idea, the average salaries in Bulgaria are around 100, 200 euros before taxes. So, gives you an idea. And then finally, the mismatch between end user needs and the offered assist technology. So I think some of you still remember they called it the disability mobile phone from Nokia. I don't know if someone remembers that, beginning of 2000. That was a great phone because it didn't work. They hadn't even tested it with people with disabilities. So there was obviously a mismatch between what people really need and what the companies came up with. I must say, however, things have changed a lot. Things have improved a lot. So I don't want to be negative, and you will see at the end of my presentation I will be positive, actually. Anyway, ignorance is bliss, but the neighbor is for impaired end users. So what we see is that in many devices, for example mobile phones, basic functionalities like text messaging are often not accessible. Unless, for example, you purchase specific software. These things were actually really problematic, let's say 2-3 years ago. Now I have there a very simple device. You basically get it for free. It's based on Android. And there's more and more accessibility support in it. So you see more and more the open source market is contributing a lot to it. And I'm saying open source because Aegis is working in open source area. So I said a little bit the framework. Let's now go to the actual project. So in Aegis we basically aim to develop software both for mobile phones, and at the time of writing, this is like 4 or 5 years ago I was writing on this, we also mentioned PDAs. It does not exist anymore, but we talk about smartphones and tablets now. Also for internet applications, and of course also for desktop applications. The consortium is quite big, a little bit all over Europe. Who I didn't mention are the Chinese, the Israelis, and the Canadians and the Americans that are also involved, but my map was too small, to be honest. Who are the users that we want to target in the project? As you will have seen in the leaflet, on the one hand we have the developers. Because if the developer doesn't know how to make something accessible, you will never get something accessible. So we have there both developers from the open source community, for example, the people from GNOME desktop, the people from Linux, now also people from Android on board. We have people that work in the desktop arena, for example, the people from LibreOffice, OpenOffice, they also work with us. And secondly, also the end users. And the end users, there we have the involvement, and also we pilot tests with people with blind and low vision impairments, motor impairments, cognitive impairments, hearing impairments, and also speech impairments. And very important, often we have actually the combination of those impairments. A person, for example, with cerebral palsy is not just a person with motor impairment. Often there are also visual impairments that occur. The stakeholders that we try to involve in the project, and I would also like, because I think most of you are Spanish. Who is not Spanish here? Where are you from?
Brazil.
Brazil. And you are?
Holland.
Okay, we have to talk afterwards. And you are from? Ah, vous êtes français. Okay. So I would anyway like to invite everyone, also the Dutch ones, also the French ones, if you know of people that would be interested in what we have developed, and I will present in the next slides. If they would be interested to test it out, try it out, please do not hesitate to contact us, because we always look for more people that are willing to try it out, break it, crash it, so we know that by the time that the project is finished, that it's solid. And John knows very well what I mean. So who else do we involve? End user organizations, and I will just mention some of them. Disability Now from Greece, Workgroup Formation Action from Belgium, etc. Umbrella organizations, but they are more about policy because they don't really have direct contact with the end users. Service providers, of course. Caregivers, because we often see when you develop software, if the caregiver or the mum and the dad or the family does not agree with it, the end user never uses it. So it's also important that we have them involved. Teachers, of course. For example, we have developed a piece of software that allows documents to be transferred into audiobooks, to be transferred into Braille, etc. So teachers are now being shown the product so that they can use it also in a school environment. Insurance companies. And why do we involve insurance companies? Well, it's very simple. In Belgium, for example, and let's say Flanders, because Wallonia is something else, there is a list, what we say, with the approved products. And if your product is not on the approved list, you won't get reimbursed. So it's also important for us that we can inform the insurance companies, and I mean then, of course, social security insurance companies, what products are available and what could be included. Yeah. So target domains, I already said that, I will skip that. First generation, second generation, third generation accessibility. Well, very simple. This is first generation. That meant that persons were using the Optacon. Maybe some of you still know it. It was a device that you really had to manually scan on the screen and then transfer it into Braille. I can assure you, you did that for 1 hour and your fingers were like numb because it was the whole time pinching it. It was quite tiring. Second generation was that we had software that looked at your screen, very nice, did actually not read your screen, scanned it, and then did an OCR on it. That means optical character recognition. That also means if there was a symbol that they did not understand, it was not transferred, for example, to your screen reader. I'm going quickly through it because I think most of you know this already. Third generation, this is what we do in the project. Third generation means what you see is also what you get. It means that whatever is on the screen is directly communicated actually with your screen reader using an API. I'm not going to go very technical, but just to satisfy all of you, Microsoft has APIs for their Microsoft Office. Apple has it, and also in the Java platform it has been developed, and also in Android. This is an example. You will get the slide so you can look a little bit closer. It's a little bit more in detail what I just explained. So I'm quickly going to tell what we have for the mobile applications. For those that are interested, because I know I don't have the time during the presentation to show everything, but I have with me on that small machine there a demonstration for Dasher. Dasher is an alternative entry method for Android and iPhone phones. Is already freely available on iPhone and Android market, and I would, for those that are interested, they can come to me and I can show it. The contact manager, that actually means that on top of the normal contact manager you have in a mobile phone, which is often not really accessible for people with learning difficulties, also visual impairments, we have created an accessible contact manager.